No one ever smiled on the prison planet of Eric 7. The sky was always dark red, full of dust and lightning. Giant metal fences cut the land into dead zones. The air smelled like burnt wires. It was a place built to hide monsters, dangerous creatures that the galaxy feared too much to kill. People whispered about what lived deep underground, but no one spoke the names aloud. They called it the dragon, and they said it was alive. 14-year-old Hajin should not have been there. He was a human boy, quiet and small, with dark hair that never stayed combed. He had followed his mother to Eric 7 by accident. She was a maintenance tech, the kind who fixed water pumps, power lines, and broken walls. Her name was Mira. She worked long shifts and didn't notice Hajin sneaking out of their small sleeping unit. He didn't like the gray meals or the angry guards. He didn't like how no one ever looked at each other. But mostly, he didn't like the silence. A silence that felt like something deep was watching, waiting. Hajin was curious, more curious than scared. One day, when his mother was busy in the lower vents of Sector 9, he slipped away. He found a path where the warning signs were half broken. It led to an old tunnel that looked unused. The air was warm, filled with metal dust and ash. Then he saw the pit. It was huge, deeper than a building, surrounded by pulsing red force fields. There were strange symbols etched in the stone around it. Words he didn't understand. He stood quietly, not breathing. Down in the pit, something massive lay still at first. Hajin thought it was part of the rock, but then it moved just a little. A slow, heavy breath. From the dust, 2 giant claws stretched out. Its body was covered in black scales, cracked and chipped, and its head. The dragon's head looked like a mountain with glowing embers for eyes. One eye was shut with a deep scar running across it. That was the first time he saw the alien dragon. And even though everything told him to run, Hajin didn't move. A guard suddenly shouted behind him, "What are you doing here, boy?" The guard's name was Officer Yule. His face was red and sweaty. He grabbed Hajin's arm and pulled him hard. "Don't you ever come near this place again. That thing doesn't eat, it doesn't sleep, it waits. Understand? What? It's a predator. It burned down cities. It broke fleets. They call it Gra, means red death." Hajin nodded quickly, but his eyes never left the dragon. And as the guard dragged him back up the lift, the dragon's tail twitched. That night, Hajin didn't sleep. He kept thinking about the creature, about how it didn't look angry. It looked tired, sad, like it had been alone for a long time. The next day, during dinner, Hajin saved a piece of bread. It was dry and small, but better than nothing. When his mother went to fix the oxygen filters, he slipped away again. He moved through dark pipes and dusty ladders, heart beating fast. He reached the same tunnel. This time the air was still. The force field around the pit buzzed quietly, and there it was, the dragon. It hadn't moved since yesterday. Its head rested on the stone. Its chest rose and fell like slow waves. Hajin stepped closer, careful not to touch the glowing red field. He took the piece of bread from his pocket and tossed it gently through a small gap in the force grid. It landed near the dragon's claw. He waited. Nothing happened then. The dragon's nostrils flared. It moved its head, slow, heavy. One eye opened and locked on him. Hajin's heart jumped. But the dragon didn't roar or strike. It just looked. It sniffed the bread. Then, with care, it opened its huge mouth and picked up the bread with 2 teeth like it might break if it bit too hard. It swallowed, then rested its head again. Jin stood frozen, and then the dragon blinked. Just once. Slowly, Hajin left the tunnel without a word. He told no one, not his mother, not the guards. It felt too strange, too real. Something he didn't want to break by telling adults who would only be afraid. The next night he came back. This time he brought a soft rice bar and a strip of dried meat. He slid them through the same gap. The dragon didn't rush. It waited, then accepted both pieces, chewing slow like it was remembering how to eat. Something changed in Hajin after that. Each night he found something small to bring. Sometimes it was food. Sometimes it was a trinket he found in the junk pile. Small flashlight, an old music chip, a broken wind-up toy. The dragon never spoke, but it listened, and it watched. Once, when Hajin slipped on the stones near the edge, he cut his hand. He cried out softly, holding his bleeding palm. The dragon moved. It pulled itself slightly closer, not enough to break its chains. It's just enough to be near. And in that moment, Hajin didn't feel afraid. He felt like seen. Not by a monster, but by something very old, very alone, and very much awake. The prison planet of Eric 7 was built to control fear, but fear was no longer working. The dragon in the pit called Gra. The Red Death was changing. The guards saw it first. It moved more. Its head lifted during check-ins. It followed them with its golden eye. It did not roar, did not fight, but it watched. And always, always. It looked up after a boy left the tunnels. The council started whispering. Something was wrong. Something was waking up. Inside the control tower, a young technician named Miran ran a report. Her hands shook as she read the energy charts. The containment glyphs were weakening, slowly but surely, not from power loss. From inside, sir, she told her officer. The dragon's resonance field is changing. Random fluctuations, he said. Log it as drift. But Moran didn't believe that. Machines didn't hum like that, not unless they were listening. That night, Hedgen crept through the pipes again. He wore his mother's old coat and carried a cracked thermos. Inside was warm broth he had hidden from dinner. When he reached the pit, the air felt different, thicker, like the quiet before a storm. Grot was waiting. He didn't move much, but his eye followed Hajin. The chains around his arms were quiet, but not still. They twitched softly. Hajin sat by the edge, legs crossed. He unscrewed the thermos and poured the soup onto a metal plate. He slid it through the force gap, slow and careful. Gra didn't eat fast. He leaned down, sniffed, and licked the broth with the edge of his tongue. Then sighed, a deep, low breath that sounded like mountains falling asleep. I brought something else, Hajin whispered. He held up a small plastic Toya wind-up walker with 3 bent legs. Its color was faded, but its spring still worked. He twisted the key, and the toy took slow, jerky steps on the stone floor. Gra watched. No growl, no roar. He leaned forward, touched it with his nose, gently, and then he hummed. The sound was deep and soft, not a threat, not a warning, a memory. Back in the towers, alarms didn't go off. But the cameras caught everything. The dragon's claws had moved closer to the glyphs. His body leaned forward, and the boy had touched his nose. The footage sent shock through the entire command. Generals shouted. Officers panicked. He's unstable. He's waking up. He is bonded. The word bonded was feared more than fire. The council met that same hour. Elder Bjonktel slammed his hand on the table. Terminate the boy, now, before it's too late. Others hesitated. If we hurt the boy and the dragon feels it, but fear made decisions faster than logic. They sent 2 guards to remove Hajin from the lower sector and prepare a quiet off-world transfer. But Hajin had already heard the whispers. That evening, he didn't go to sleep. He ran straight to the pit. Gra was waiting again, chest rising steady. His golden eye was open. They're coming, Hajin whispered. They want to take me away. They're scared of you. Grata didn't move at first, but his breath grew hot. The chains rattled. Small vibrations began humming under the stone. Floor, I'm not scared of you, Hajin said. I never was. He stepped close to close. And Gra leaned forward for the first time. Force field around the pit flickered. Just for a second, but it was enough. From high above. Security systems blacked out for 3.7 seconds. Guards panicked, weapons armed. But by the time cameras came back, the boy was standing inside the shield, and the dragon was not attacking him, it was protecting him. A huge tail curled around Hajin like a wall. Not to trap him, to guard him. The guard shouted, Stand down! Step away from the creature! But Gra growled, Not like a wild beast. like a warning. Hajin reached up and placed a hand on the dragon's nose. His voice shook, but he didn't cry. "You're not a monster," he said. "You're lonely." And Grath closed his eye. By morning, nothing was the same. The chains still held. The glyphs still pulsed. But now everyone knew Grath had changed. He moved with purpose. He responded to the boy. He chose to stay bound. Not because of fear, but because of the boy. The council argued for weeks. They couldn't erase the footage, couldn't deny what the galaxy now knew. A human child had tamed the deadliest predator ever found. Not with weapons. Not with science, with kindness. They never let Hajin leave Eric 7, but they gave him a new room. Closer to the pit, they called it observation duty. But he knew better. Every night he brought stories, songs, and broken toys. Every night. Gara waited in deep under the prison world. Something powerful, something ancient, sat not in rage but in peace. Not a monster anymore, but a friend.